As I mentioned before the break, one of the biggest beneficiaries of the last 48 to 72 hours of the news cycle being on the Derek Chauvin case has been Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz, who is in full damage control mode. He should be in resignation mode, not damage control mode. And I believe that the attention is going to get back to Matt Gaetz. There's a very interesting Daily Beast article which points out that, quote, his latest campaign finance report reflects a public relations scramble that began even before he acknowledged being the focus of a federal investigation. We now are learning that Matt Gaetz knew much earlier that he was the focus of this investigation and that he was already working on his public relations campaign. The filing, which covers the 3 months between January and March, writes the Daily Beast, shows that Gaetz has incurred unprecedented fundraising expenses during a typically quiet period. In that time, Gaetz dropped 6 figures on a direct mail blitz, shelling out more for fundraising services than he did in all of 2020. Now, understand the cycle. One of my criticisms of the status quo of the House of Representatives and 2-year terms is that with 2-year terms, you basically get elected, you get 6 months, and then you start campaigning again. Matt Gaetz is doing the fundraising during that 6-month period where you are typically not campaigning. It's basically a year and a half of campaigning, not 2. Matt Gaetz is starting right away, and it tells us quite a bit about the panic that he is likely feeling as a result of these investigations. The article goes on to say Gaetz also paid $5,000 in strategic consulting fees to notorious political operative Roger Stone. And he gave money to a number of Republican Florida state lawmakers that he has never supported before. What it appears he's trying to do there, and again, we're left to read into the actions of a madman, it seems he's trying to curry favor with some of these fellow Florida Republicans so that they will not abandon him and hopefully will speak out in his support if and when it gets really ugly for him, which could be any time. The Daily Beast writes that the report also indicates Gaetz may be increasingly isolated. He's received no contributions from his Republican colleagues. More than anything, the filing reflects a concerted effort to bolster support ahead of the creeping shadow of the investigation. Gaetz has spent roughly $170K on direct mail this year, $160,000 of it all on one day, March 31st. I think that's the day after. I know I was on our break that day. That must be the day after the bizarre interview with Tucker Carlson. The previous day, the New York Times broke the news that the Justice Department was looking into whether he had sex with a 17-year-old and paid for her travel, which possibly violates federal sex trafficking laws. Gaetz has also invested in fundraising, paying Nevada-based Red Rock Strategies nearly $160K for fundraising consulting. That's more than he spent on fundraising services in 2019 and 2020 combined. That is stunning. Last week, Politico reported Gaetz spent 6 figures on TV ads, punching back against the accusations, 30-second spots slated to run in his home district in the Florida Panhandle and on national cable networks, asking supporters to, quote, fight back against a, quote, multi-week fake news cycle targeting CNN. There is one expense in particular raising eyebrows, a $5,000 strategic political consulting fee to Drake Ventures. That's the company belonging to Roger Stone. Friday, the Department of Justice sued Stone and his wife, saying they owe millions of dollars in unpaid taxes and are using that very same Drake Ventures to shelter more than $1 million. Isn't that unbelievable? Look at how the tentacles of Gaetz are spreading into so many different things. So there's the investigation into Gaetz, which we already talked about. And then now, in light of that, it's sort of weird that Gaetz was the lone no vote on some sex trafficking bill a couple of years ago or whatever. Okay, that's weird. And we're starting to see that in a new light. Then we learn about Gaetz's alleged involvement in a shill candidate scheme in a different district in the state of Florida. We had a report on that. I believe it was earlier mid last week. Now we find out that Gaetz paid a consulting fee to Roger Stone's company, and it is the very same company that now allegedly is a way for Roger Stone and his wife to shelter more than $1 million and avoid paying taxes. It's so tied in with all of this stuff. And in a sense, I don't feel bad for him, but Gaetz may end up being another sort of victim of the Trump grift. The way that the Trump grift works is Trump loves you, loves you, loves you for as long as you are saying good things about him and for as long as you are useful to him. And Trump will introduce you to all sorts of different people. Who knows how Matt Gaetz ended up sort of entangled with Roger Stone in the first place. My instinct is that it has something to do with Donald Trump. As soon as you are no longer useful to Trump, or as soon as you are potentially a problem due to your own issues that you are having from a public relations standpoint, Trump is gone. And indeed, the reports are that Matt Gaetz has been trying to meet with Trump. Matt Gaetz has been claiming that he has Donald Trump support, although it's not completely clear that that's the case. And it is another, at least partially. I'm not saying Gaetz did the stuff. If Gaetz did the stuff he's accused of doing, he didn't do it because of Donald Trump. But he is another one of these guys who got sort of lulled into Trump's circle as a brown-nosing sycophant and then dropped like a bad habit as soon as he was no longer useful. One other piece of this very extensive Daily Beast article about what's going on with Matt Gaetz, quote, the report also suggests Gaetz has few friends in Washington. While Gaetz swore off donations from corporate PACs, he kept the door open to donations from candidate committees, but he has so far reported no financial support in 2021 from friends in Congress like Jim Jordan and Steve Scalise, both of whom donated back in 2020. While Gaetz made same-day $4,000 donations to Mike Lee and Rand Paul, Gaetz did not give money to any House colleagues. He did send out a few $1,000 donations to 5 Republican Florida senators and had not donated to their campaigns previously. So I would expect that the media attention will go back to Matt Gaetz at some point relatively soon. At some point relatively soon, I would imagine we will know whether there will be charges filed as a result of what appear to be multiple investigations into Matt Gaetz. But certainly Gaetz must be thrilled that for the last 2 to 3 days, the focus has been not on him, but rather on Derek Chauvin. We'll get back to him. No question about it.